Welcome back. All right, as I mentioned, we have Jeff Parker here who's going to give us lots of updates about what's going on here in the village. Well, welcome. It's nice to see you.
Good morning and happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you.
Yeah, I have a few things. Some good news, I think, in the sense of COVID-19. What we saw in Orange County is that we have now dropped down a tier, which means for Orange County, they're now in a situation where they can gradually start to open up some facilities out there in the private sector. This is a great chart. It's changed in the last couple of weeks, but they've now gone to a color-coded system, and that kind of tells you, if you go on their website, it kind of gives you an idea, and then it has language associated with it that lets you know that if you're in a tier, you got to stay in a tier for 2 weeks minimum. And typically it could be up to 21 days in a tier, depending on how you're progressing. Top two things I wanted to mention were the 5.2 and the 4.2. The testing positivity rate now at 4.2, that's gone down significantly where we were a couple months ago. And that's really, really good sign. And that's one of the reasons we've been able to drop down into the red category versus the purple. The cases, 100,000 there at 5.2. Obviously, the goal there again is to get that below 5%, but they're going in the right direction. That's the important thing. Unfortunately, we did have a little bit of an uptick in cases. We were down in the low 200s, but we're up at 281, and unfortunately 4 additional deaths reported. So that kind of the sad part of the situation. And now we're, as you know, since we're at 1,069 total deaths since COVID-19 started, which is significant and sad. Relative to the village, though, continued good news. I mean, we're still at 49 cases. Actually, at one point in time, it was said we were at 50. They made a correction, so we're at 49 cases for Laguna Woods, which includes the whole city, but we're 95% of that. So, and at 5 deaths. So those numbers haven't changed. So that's real good. Our activity out in the village, people wearing masks and everything, is doing really, really well. And so we much appreciate all of our residents from doing that. I did want to mention with regards to opening up facilities that although we're hearing in very limited capacity that in Orange County, like a restaurant or some can have 25% or 10%, we are still not opening up our facilities at this point in time because of the management of just being able to let 1 or 2 people in or 3 people in. We don't have that kind of system set up yet. We're evaluating that. So as we move forward and take a look at that, if there is a way in which we can be safe and secure, then we'll definitely evaluate that and provide that information to the governing boards and let them ultimately make the final decision. But it is something where in the private sector, the ability to have just 10 people go in, that's 10 more people than they had. So I think they look at it as a revenue raiser. We don't look at it as a revenue raiser when we're opening facilities. So we're still focused on hopefully at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year seeing a COVID-19 vaccine. I know that they're working very, very hard on that issue, and I know that there's issues out there with it, but that's what we were proposing, and that's what we've recommended to the boards, that let's wait until we get that vaccine to make sure we can be real safe with regards to congregating in our facilities.
Right. And one thing that I did happen to notice, there were a few restaurants that said, well, you know what, 25% capacity isn't going to pay our bills. So they are continuing their outdoor dining, which I think is great. I mean, as long as the weather's great, why not? So if they can arrange that with the cities, then they might as well just have outdoor dining as well. And if you choose to sit inside, you certainly can.
And I've been to a couple places where their capacity outdoor is almost the same as their capacity indoor, so it makes a lot of sense to go in that direction.
It does.
There is movement in a lot of cities to try to create more outdoor space for restaurants, even closing streets in some communities where they've restricted access for the vehicles and allowed them to go out into the street areas with, which is kind of interesting.
Right, which is what they did in Laguna Beach. I love it. It makes it feel like Europe. So it's kind of neat
very
that
similar
way.
to that.
Yeah, it's sort of a nice way to look at it. So that's good. So perfect. Well, thank you for those numbers. And then I understand that there's lots of people out there who want to have their court facilities. They want to have their pickleball and their tennis. and which they can do now, but you're
Right.
talking about expanding.
Yes, so what we're doing is we started the evaluation this week and looking at next week coming out with the protocol to expand to full operation of our tennis and pickleball hours of operation that we were conducting before. We do have security issues that we want to make sure with regards to the late hours, but most importantly, we were doing early morning and then evening, and looking at now, let's just go from early morning all the way through the day
Right.
and add those additional hours and those additional court times. With the new reservation system, we think we can handle that efficiently, and so that'll be a real positive, just to give more hours of operation. We're going to look at the same activity with regards to our pools. Can we expand that, make sure we have our capacity, and if we can do that and meet the needs, then we'll continue to go in that direction. If we need to expand to meet the needs of our residents, then we'll look at that with regards to opening up other facilities. At the same time that we're doing that with our current operations, we're also, our recreation department is starting to develop the, not only the protocol, but lining up classes. And when I mean lining up classes, it's we find instructors. So we hire instructors to come in. So that's part of the challenge that we're having right now, is finding the appropriate instructors to do more outdoor classes, like Tai Chi or yoga, where we still have the policy of no more than 15 people in one grouping, but we can space it out, wearing masks, have more outside activities. We just want to continue to expand that so people have more activities that they can participate in.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, you know, everyone's dying to get out and they want to be able to participate, but you know, we've got to do it step by step. So that's awesome.
Be safe.
And yeah, be safe for sure. And of course, we did have an update from United with Sue Margolis the other day, and budgets and more budgets. So there's a lot of budget stuff going on.
Exactly. So on Tuesday, United adopted their budget for 2021. They did that via the process of having 2 or 3 reiterations of the evaluation of the budget. The good news for the residents, I think, especially, is using the surplus that we had this year because of some of the savings that we had because of COVID-19, rolled that into their contingencies and their reserves, so they didn't have to bump those up, which they normally do a few dollars. So the zero assessment is their approach this year. That's on their base level. There will be adjustments for the individual members in United with regards to their property tax or their property insurance. But the base is at 0, and accomplishing that, I think, was an important activity for the United board. They wanted to really focus on that. They also want to have a special meeting in October where we come back and do even a deeper dive into their reserves to see whether or not that contribution could be even lowered even more and still meet all their needs and obligations that they have with regards to maintaining and fixing up their units. So we'll be doing that in October.
Yeah, that's great, and that's good information for sure that they are going to have a zero assessment, you know, hike.
Exactly.
I mean, that was probably.
So GRF United now at that, and next week we have Third adopts their budget.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, we'll look forward to that information. And then lastly, we did do a little 9/11 tribute this morning, and I know you wanted to say a few things
That's
about
great.
that.
I just wanted to let people know that it's important to remember this day. Very, very sad day in a sense. And with that, for me, personal shout out to everybody that's in the public safety, fire, police, for their fraternity that, you know, really acted on our behalf and going in there and trying to save people. We lost a lot of lives that day, and it's something that we won't remember, or we will remember, we'll continue to remember. And I just, for me personally, just a thank you to all of those people, and for those in the community that were directly impacted, and those that serve in the military or serve in the public safety. I just want to say thank you for your service, and we'll continue to remember this day.
Great, thank you, and we'll see. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right. And remember, stay tuned for our grocery hacks that we have coming up, and also stay tuned for next week because we are going to have additional information regarding the expansion of the courts. We'll be right back.